Mr. Clerk, would you ring the bell, please? Clerk will read the caption to a group of privileged resolutions. Clerk will read.
Commending Amy Coleman for bravery and for other purposes, recognizing March 26, 2015 as Georgia Food Bank Association Day at the state capitol, recognizing March 31, 2015 as Cesar Chavez Day at the state capitol, and honoring Mr. Chavez's birthday, honoring the life and memory of Governor Carl Sanders, commending the Arthritis Foundation and recognizing Ms. April West 2015 Walk to Cure Arthritis Adult Honoree, commending Lane Tyson, Ashley Price, Lorinda Birch, Sarah Wallace, and Julie Hogan of Lumpkin County High School, commending R. Wayne Lowe, congratulating 2014 Milton High School girls lacrosse team on winning the state championship, commending Georgia Golf and Travel, and recognizing April 2nd, 2015 is Georgia Golf Trail Day. Recognizing the 45th anniversary celebration of the Central Savannah River Area Business League. Commending Coach Otis Smart for his dedicated service to Lucy Laney High School, honoring the life and memory of Reverend Willie Barrow. Commending Lamar Smith Signature Homes, and for other purposes. That completes the reading of the privileged resolutions. What purpose does Chairman Earhart rise?
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to make a motion.
State your motion.
I'd like to move that LC 1080811 be removed from the privileged resolutions list and voted on separately.
On the gentleman's motion, is there objection? There appears to be no objection, and it is so ordered. Clerk will read the caption to House Resolution 612. House Resolution 612. Oh, I'm sorry. All right, on the privilege resolutions, with the exception of the one that was subject to the gentleman's motion, is there objection? Chair hears none, and they are adopted. All right, clerk will read the caption to House Resolution 612.
House Resolution 612 by Representative Cooper, the 43rd, creating the House Study Committee on Fibroids, Education, and Awareness. This resolution has been referred to the Committee on Health and Human Services. That committee recommend that this resolution be adopted.
Chair recognizes Chairman Cooper to present the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members of the House, I bring to you House Resolution 612. This is a resolution creating a study committee on fibroid education and awareness. There is an amendment on your desk to this resolution. It is my understanding that the amendment has been pulled. But I want to speak to the amendment first. First of all, every woman in this chamber should be appalled. And every husband in this chamber should also be appalled that a member of this House would put in such a flippant and such a disgusting amendment to a very serious problem. I'm also even more offended as a healthcare professional that someone that purports to be a healthcare professional and that works with patients would put in and be the first signer on this amendment. Uterine fibroids are a serious problem for women. Most little girls grow up thinking that someday they're going to marry and have a family. And family is very important to them. And just as it's very important to a lot of men. And when they grow up and find that their uterus is full of tumors and they can't get pregnant, it is devastating to them. And this is a growing problem, especially for African American and women. And that means it's a real problem for Georgians that are African American. It does happen to Caucasians, but it's more prevalent with African American women. And it just doesn't affect you on getting pregnant. You'll find in this, it talks about the white dress. And if you'll sit and think about it a little while, somebody that has a real problem with a uterine full of fibroids can't wear white dresses because every month they have excessive bleeding, they have cramps, they feel awful, they run temperatures, they miss their work. It hurts employers. It doesn't just hurt the family. It spills over until their work, and then that is an economic factor. So this is a very serious study committee. The amendment talked about that all the meetings should be held in a gynecologist's office. I mean, that's an insult to me as a chairman. I am very careful about what comes out of my committee. If you'll go back and look, most everything that comes out of my committee ends up being signed by the governor because I am so careful about it. And I don't let flippant things go. And I am very careful with the money that we also spend. But some people in this chamber seem to have a problem with study committees. And I know that it is something when we're being careful about money we have to look at and say, well, you know, you can just have the meeting on your own and just go to a gynecologist's office. But study committees do serve a purpose. We do not have an extensive staff like they do in Washington that can spend hours and hours studying different issues. And so what we do, we handle them with study committees. And study committees allow you to bring in experts, you know, to go to a different part of our state if that is significant to the issue. And I can tell you, we have a huge black belt through Georgia. It starts all over Augusta and goes down to Alabama. And I would bet you, as we study this issue, we will find an even bigger problem with that area having a huge number of women with uterine problems. This also affects the bottom line on the state, because on our Medicaid roll, it's mainly women. And if these women are having miscarriages and serious problems, we pick up the bill. So if we can find some way, if there is some kind of new research, if there is something we are doing wrong, then we need to know about it and we need to spread the word. And that's what a study committee often lets you do, because the press often gets involved with different study committees. So I have basically told you what this resolution is going to do. It's going to allow us to study the problems of uterine fibroids, and especially how that affects women across this state and the pregnancies rate that we have. So, Mr. Speaker, if there's no questions, I'll yield the well. If there are questions, I will be glad to answer them.
You have a question.
Okay, thank you. I'll take it.
I think Representative Gravely is not at his seat. That may be
I think he missed his
button
turn.
pushed in error. Did you have a, he waves.
Thank you.
Okay.
If there are no other questions, Mr. Speaker, I'll yield the well, and I would ask the members of this body to give it 100% vote. Thank you very much.
Chair recognizes Representative Spencer to speak to the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, the amendment you have before you has been withdrawn after some counsel with members here on the floor. But let me tell you what the true intent of that amendment was. I think you were giving one side of the argument. We have disagreements in politics. Disagreements are the alpha and omega of politics, and that's what we do here on the floor of the House every single day. So here's the intent of the amendment that was before you that is now withdrawn. The intent was, this is such a private conversation that needs to happen in the offices of a gynecological surgeon. I myself, as a healthcare practitioner, as a physician assistant, I have diagnosed fibroid uteruses in my office, in the emergency department. I've taken care of the complications as a result of excessive dysfunctional uterine bleeding. I'm very aware of this issue. But what this amendment was about is we need to force these conversations in the offices of the surgeons who treat these. We don't need to be spending resources on matters like this. We have a lot of study committees that we create. I vote for some, I vote against some, but they all have their specific purposes. So there is no malicious intent on this. You know, with all due respect, Madam Chair, you know, she called me trash for putting this amendment on the floor. I feel offended because she did not have the ability to come to me and ask me what it was about. Unlike Madam Abrams here and Ms. Hughley, they came to me and asked me what my amendment was about. I told them what my amendment was about. So, after much wise counsel, and my position was stated to them, I decided to draw the amendment. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield the well.
You have a question if you care to yield. He doesn't yield. Okay, that's all the speakers on the bill or the resolution. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered on House Resolution 612? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which was favorable to the adoption of the resolution? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this resolution now be adopted? All those in favor of the adoption of the resolution will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no. And the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the adoption of House Resolution 612. The ayes are 145, the nays are 3. This resolution, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore adopted. Clerk will read the caption to Senate Bill 139. Senate Bill 139.
Senate Bill 139 by Senator Harper, the 7th. Be titled an act to amend Chapter 1 and Title 10 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to selling and other practices, so as to provide that any regulation using the use, disposition, or sale of any imposition of any prohibition, restriction, fee, imposition, or taxation of auxiliary containers shall be done only by general law. This bill has been referred to the Committee on Agriculture and Consumer Affairs. The committee recommends that this bill be passed by committee substitute.
Chair recognizes the chairman of the Agriculture and Consumer Affairs Committee, Chairman McCall, to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Most of the time when I come, when I come down here, I'm talking about agriculture stuff, which I completely understand. And now I'm on the Consumer Affairs side of the Agriculture and Consumer Affairs Committee. All Senate Bill 139 does is says that only by general law, which is us, can container use, like what Chick-fil-A comes in, what McDonald's puts their stuff in, plastic bags, cotton bags, paper bags, anything that you take, either your groceries, your food, or anything from the retail level that you take home in, the only way it can be regulated is by us doing it. This protects retailers and restaurants of all kinds, all sizes, and all over the state. It protects consumers by preventing any kind of increased cost, and it also, the biggest thing it protects them from is confusion about which part of the state you may or may not can use a certain type container. The other thing it does, it allows consumer choice. I don't know how many times you have ever been to a grocery store, for instance, and they held a gun to your head and said, you don't get a choice, all you get to pick is either a plastic or a paper bag. This bill is about giving consumers that choice. It clears up the confusion of 159 counties and 536 cities that may possibly enact their own regulations on the use of containers for consumers to take home. There's been a lot of talk out in the hall and in here asking me about we are circumventing local control. Well, let me tell you how local control can work through this bill. Instead of local governments using a hammer, which is another regulation, to tell a business or a retailer what they can or cannot use, this really allows them the ability to provide incentives to a local business through whatever means the local government may want to do it, either through tax breaks or some other kind of incentive, or lower water rates or lower electric rates or whatever that they may dream up. It allows them to use a carrot instead of a stick to encourage, if they see fit, a retailer from using a certain container. Also, by it being a general law, by it saying that the only way it can be regulated is by general law, if your local officials so see fit, they can talk to whoever their representative is, and all he's got to do is pass a general law bill to whatever effect the local government wants. If you look in that little handout that's on your desk, you'll look at a map of California. And I sure don't want to look like California in Georgia. But they allowed local control, and it was so confusing to the middlemen, the consumers, the retailers, till they had to go back, and you probably heard a while back that they passed a ban on all plastic bags. But the reason they did it is because they allowed local control over what each and every little town and municipality and county decided they wanted to do about how they wanted to control containers out there. So then they had to go back and pass a statewide ordinance. And we are trying to preempt any of that kind of problems in the state with this bill. It could be, if you'll also look at the California map, it could also be perceived as a tax increase, because if you look in the little box over to the side of the map, you will see how much each bag is now costing, or how much you're having to pay a tax on each bag or container in the state of California. It does absolutely nothing to prevent any county or municipality from any kind of municipal, residential, or commercial recycling. Matter of fact, it encourages that. Every grocery store in the state has a bin that you can bring your plastic bag back to. I recycle them because they hold exactly 13 ears of sweet corn, which is what we sell for a dozen in the springtime. And there's no telling how many thousand of those plastic bags that everybody brings to me. It allows local governments to regulate the use of auxiliary containers used by retailers on property that they own. So if the county or the city owns property and they are having an event on that property, then they still have the ability to tell the retailer, whatever he may be selling, what he can or cannot put his food or whatever other else he may want in. It's not just about plastic bags. It also pertains to helping folks like Chick-fil-A cups, McDonald's that you get your Big Mac in, or even Cheddar's that Representative Peake lets you take your doggy bag home in. Along with grocery store retailers, the retailers, and I'm not talking about just grocery stores. It's Dollar General, it's Bass Pro Shops, it's anywhere that you get your goods and they put it in a plastic bag and they take it home. We don't want to ban that kind of stuff. And I just named off the big businesses. When you get to looking at little bitty stores, this mom and pop, which is the heart of the economy of this state, whether it's in Nashville, Georgia, or the middle of Atlanta, Georgia, we don't want to be able to put any more burden on them with any more regulation. The biggest thing it does for those businesses is it protects the integrity of their own business management decisions. It lets them base their decisions on what kind of containers they want to use based on customer preference and customer service. And the biggest thing it does is help them stay in business and continue providing jobs all over this state without another government regulation. I've heard all about plastic bags blowing everywhere and styrofoam containers laying on the side of the road. That had absolutely nothing to do with this bill. We have litter laws on the books now that are not being enforced. And that's where the angle for the plastic bag complaints being on the side of the road and blowing out into the ocean and the sea turtles thinking they're jellyfish. The litter laws are what need to be controlled on that, not banning a product that every consumer in the state of Georgia uses. There's one thing I want you to remember through all this discussion is that businesses should not be penalized or regulated out of business for consumer disregard. So, Mr. Speaker, if there's any questions, I know what time of day it is, I know what day it is, and I know there's about 10 or 11 more bills on the calendar. I'll try to answer one or two easy ones. And
maybe you can help me with what day of the week it is then.
It would be Friday. And I got baby pigs and baby goats and baby sheep at my house that need some attention.
Only two more days till Monday then, right?
That'd be correct.
You have a number of questions.
I'll take a couple and then.
Okay. Chair recognizes Representative Peake to your right for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The gentleman yield.
Yes, sir.
Is it not true that SB 139 protects every Georgia retailer and restaurant in the state and will benefit these businesses by preventing cost and limiting confusion?
That's exactly correct.
Further yield for
Yes, sir.
question. Is it true that these individual companies will continue to be able to decide if and how they choose to not use these bags and containers? Is it not true?
Totally left up to them based on their customer choices.
Great. Thank you. Appreciate your initiative on this bill.
Thank you, sir.
Do you further yield? One more. All right. Chair recognizes the chairman of the Natural Resources and Environment Committee, Chairman Smith, for a question.
Thank you, gentleman. Yield.
Yes, ma'am.
Is it not true that back in 2006 we passed a bill, House Bill 1320, that was called the Litter Abatement and Prevention Act, and that part of this act enabled our local governments to enact ordinances and to use their local courts in which to enforce their laws? That is something that has not been done throughout the state. That is something they have power to do now.
That is
that
correct.
not true?
Yes, ma'am. I think that was your bill, wasn't it? Mr. Speaker, I would encourage everybody to vote yes for this bill to help protect their local businesses, from restaurants to grocery stores to any retailer that they may have, so they can keep providing jobs and not be doing any kind of maybe a tax increase or a price increase to their customers. And I would appreciate very much a yes vote on 139. Thank you, sir.
Gentleman has yielded the well. The chair was reminded after the chairman got in the well that the Rules Committee this morning had limited debate on this bill, and so we put the timer on the chairman, and there are other speakers both for the measure and against the measure. Debate was limited to 1 hour. There are two more members who wish to be heard in favor of the bill. They will have a combined total of 19 minutes. There are speakers against the or against the bill. They will have a combined total of 30 minutes. Chair recognizes Chairman Earhart to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, ladies and gentlemen. The riveting topic of plastic bags. Some of the things we do down here are more important than others, and I want to take a few minutes to talk seriously to you about this. And you're probably going to hear this old canard about local control. Now, local control sounds good, but ladies and gentlemen, we were elected to come down here and vote on issues. And it seems like every time we turn around down here, we hear this local control from the GMA out there or one of these others. Folks, what local control means to them is send us state money and shut up. I'm ready to give them some local control down here. Let's give them a year of local control, but you get the whole ball of wax, locals. You don't get any money. How fast do you think they'll be back down here going, control us, but send the money? Stand up for your own principles. Quit worrying about what that crowd out there has to say about that. They get to do all the local controlling they want right there in their elected purview. That's not something that they need to beat you over the head and shoulders with. Stand up for yourself. If you don't like the bill, that's fine. Disagree with me on that, but don't do it because you think it's something about local control. Put them off. Now let's get into the hyperbole of this, because that's what's more fun sometimes in these, the plastic bag phobia that we're going to talk about here. Ladies and gentlemen, I've been doing the grocery shopping in my house for the last 19 years, and I want to talk about the children. I want to talk about plastic paper bags right now. If we're going to be concerned about plastic bags down on the coast, most of the kids I see down on the coast are running around in barefoot. Now, if any of you have ever picked up a paper bag at the grocery store, when I first started doing this, I remember this really. it was running a little late, and I had ice cream, and I had this big old jar of pickles, and that ice cream was melting, and that that paper bag, I didn't notice it, but it's because I was in front of the bag, and I was carrying them up here like this. You know how you have to carry the paper bags? And I got out of the truck and grabbed that bag and crashed on the concrete. So I had pickles and ice cream, and I had glass all over the place. Now, I submit to you that glass all over the coast down there where we're worried about the plastic bags is much more a danger to our children than plastic. And just a final piece. Now, I know we've got some that are frightened of plastic bags, but ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to, door carriers, you might want to be careful because there's a lot of them that may be either averting their eyes or running for the exits, but I'm going to pull something out. And I don't want you to be afraid. I'm holding this. I'm touching it. It's a plastic bag from Walmart. Good company. Great corporate citizen. And it's not doing anything to me yet. I'm not having any medical conditions. I'm not having any serious psychological problems yet. I know some of you would have a problem. That's okay. I can. Maybe if I leave this here, some of those who have a concern about plastic bags will have a different idea of what they want to do. I'll take it with me. I wouldn't want to create that big a condition for them. So all of those who have the PBP, that's the plastic bag phobia, y'all vote against this bill. Those of us who can handle a little bit of plastic, we're going to vote with it. Mr. Speaker, I yield the well.
Chair recognizes Representative Kelly to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I come here today to talk about the second favorite thing that we like to talk about up here, which is economic development. We go to great strides in this legislature to put forth policies that are pro-business, limited regulations. We've been so successful that our state is the #1 state in the nation to do business. We take great pride when we do that. We have a whole group of media people that sit back there and watch us as we put forth policies. Now, I go to my local meetings, and sometimes I may be the only one there. We talk about local control, but what happens is a lot of time, out-of-state interest come into those meetings without the sunshine of the media to watch over them. And they talk them into doing something that we're trying to prevent here at the state capitol, which is hurting our business climate. Now, I know I have a disagreement with some of my conservative members here about the level and what dictates local control. We have this debate sometimes in our school system. Whereas a conservative, sometimes I'm on a school choice issue where I believe that parents make the ultimate decision in where they should send their child. Now, the opponents of that say we shouldn't do things for school choice up here because we're invading local control. And I'm glad that I have conservative members that will stand with us and do things to help give parents more choices in their education system. Because I believe that they're the ones that make the decision. But when we're talking here about local control, I would ask those conservative members who believe that parents make the best choices for their children to say that consumers make the best choice on what kind of bag they use. The same way that you say that the parent knows better than the school board, let the consumer have the same decision and not a city council, not a county commission. This is an important issue. We have a duty up here to provide certainty and uniformity for our businesses that want to come into our state. I remember a couple weeks ago, Chairman Roberts was explaining an amendment talked about a local grocery store that was becoming to his district and the amount of jobs that would come. I remember not too long ago there was a grand opening of a new Walmart up in Blue Ridge. Brought a lot of jobs. We don't want those jobs handicapped and hijacked by extreme environmentalists. We have ways to prevent litter. It's called your tax dollars that pay for law enforcement. When we look at the jobs that could be hurt because of this, and when the state unemployment rate goes up, I'll tell you who our constituents look at. They look at us. They don't blame the mayor. They don't blame the city council. They blame us. They want to know, why isn't the governor, why isn't the state legislature doing more to ensure that there's good jobs in our state? We're the ones that have that on our backs. That's why we need to make decisions like this. I ask you to support this measure and continue with uniformity in our state to provide certainty for our businesses so that more jobs can continue to come to our great state. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'll yield the way.
Okay, we're going to reset the clock now. We have 30 minutes for the opponents of the bill. Chair recognizes Representative Turner to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And well, you guys are good. Chairman Earhart, Representative Kelly, you guys are really good. You talked a lot about principles, which I'm going to talk about. We talked a little bit about school choice, and I'm glad you brought that up. School choice is one of those issues that challenges a conservative on several different levels. And any time that we have something that where we have established principles, we have to establish a hierarchy of those principles. And stay with me for a second. Because what ends up happening is an issue will challenge two of those principles and they become deadlocked against each other. And it may be like an issue like school choice, like Representative Kelly mentioned. School choice is an individual liberty issue. We fight for school choice as conservatives because we want the individual, the parent, the child, to be empowered to make decisions for themselves. That value, that principle, fits into a hierarchy of several different principles so that when we judge each issue against that hierarchy, we make decisions based upon those principles. Local control is certainly in that hierarchy, but where does it fit? If we're going to establish local control, is it more important or less important than individual liberty? So I want to explain to you how I make decisions down here. And the very first thing I do whenever I have an issue is I look at it, is it constitutional? If it is constitutional, and I believe that this measure would be constitutional, I go down to the next principle. Does it increase or restrict individual liberty? This is kind of a gray area for this bill, so we're going to stick a pin in that and keep going down our list. Is it good government? Meaning, does it make government more accountable, more transparent? Since we're not the ones actually making the decisions here on whether or not to ban the bag, I'd say no, it doesn't. We'll keep going down our list. Does it make government smaller, more efficient? Again, since we're not the ones making the decision, we'll continue down our list. The fifth principle is local control. Red flag. Now we have something we have to worry about. Let's look at this. Doesn't violate the Constitution. That's number one. Individual liberty, number two. Make government more efficient. Does it raise taxes? None of these things matter because this bill doesn't affect that, but it does. When you get to your hierarchy of principles, when you deal with an issue that conflicts with one thing that you stand for but not another, which things are more important to you? I'll give you a pass on the top four. I'll give you a pass. But you cannot tell me this is not a violation of local control. I would not want the city of Holly Springs to pass a ban on plastic bags. But I don't have the same issues as Tybee Island. I don't have the same issues as Athens. I don't have issue the same. My city has their own unique set of issues. If we pass this bill, we are taking a tool out of the toolbox for those local governments to deal with their own problems. And that's a significant move. When we looked at this issue in committee, the question came up, how many cities are doing this now? And there's only 2 that are even considering it. We don't have a problem with cities establishing bans on plastic bags in Georgia. We are not California. And because we don't have a problem to solve, this is a measure that is in search of a problem. And in order to fix that problem that does not exist, not a single job has been lost, we're going to use a hatchet when maybe a scalpel would do. So I'm going to ask you to imagine just for a minute, 5 years from now, if we do not pass this measure, and you have 4 or 5 cities that are doing this, we as a General Assembly can always come back and say, you know what, this has gotten out of hand. There is an economic impact to this. We have that ability at any time to cut it off, just like California decided, and maybe we go in the same direction as what this bill proposes. But now is not the time because we don't have a problem to solve. So, ladies and gentlemen of the House, I would ask for you to vote no with me on this bill. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Gentleman has yielded the well. The chair recognizes Representative Peasold to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My friends, today I come to you as a small business owner. For those of you who don't know, I'm in the McDonald's business. And we've got restaurants in 4 counties, 5 cities, spanning 2 states, Georgia and Alabama. So as a business owner, nothing helps me sleep better at night than predictability. Man, it would be wonderful to know exactly how many customers are coming through my door between 12 and 1 o'clock. That way I could plan for it. It would be certainly easier to make things more predictable if the state and feds would just regulate it. How about employee attendance? Should we regulate that at the state or federal level? Or maybe how customers treated my employees, or maybe how my employees treat my customers. It would certainly make things easier. That would make things easier as a business owner and more predictable. Would it be right and would it be just? Of course not. Full disclosure, if similar regulations were proposed in my hometown of Columbus, I would vehemently oppose them. I would talk to every person that I could possibly talk to try to stop it. So this is not an environmental concern with me. I know it's cliche at this point. It's a local control issue with me. Now, I've heard arguments that if we don't pass this bill, we are in danger of becoming California. Wow. Friends, Brunswick ain't in danger of becoming Berkeley any more than Lawrenceville is of becoming Los Angeles. Hiram ain't got nothing to do with Hermosa Beach. Statesboro is not anything like San Francisco. And finally, Manchester's politics vary slightly from Malibu's. So someone in Atlanta doesn't know what's best for someone who lives in Adel. Finally, this is not a proper exercise of state regulatory authority. The Georgia General Assembly has no compelling state interest in the unrestrained use of plastic bags by businesses. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield the well.
Chair recognizes Representative Buckner to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, I am in a very unique situation. I have been asked to speak for Representative Al Williams. I cannot begin to be as flamboyant as Representative Williams, but what I will promise you is that I will be as sincere and heartfelt as I can be. The bottom line of this bill is that the litter laws in Tybee Island are not working. This bill was filed in a direct response to Tybee Island engaging in conversation with citizens about plastic bags and litter on the beach and the fear that it would hurt the critters in the ocean. I tried that. That seemed like something Al might say. There are no litter laws in the ocean. There are no means of enforcing litter laws in the ocean. So, in this small island community trying to take care of its own home business, they want the opportunity to do that, and they feel this bill would hamper that. Coastal communities in town have a unique relationship to plastic waste, as a litter affects tourism. Not many of us want to go to a trashy beach. Most of us want it to be clean and neat. So this litter problem affects jobs. Also, as the plastic bags and trash blow into the ocean where there are no ways to protect and to control litter in the ocean, it can kill and endanger animals' lives that the very tourists are coming to see. We need to help them protect those jobs. There are 6 counties that are oceanside counties and a handful of cities on the coast. Tybee may feel very differently about how they want to handle this situation, and we need to give them that opportunity. California has 340 miles of coastline. Georgia has 100. I think the opportunity for us and the need for us to be very careful about protecting our 100 miles is obvious. I want to close with this. Just a few days ago, we voted on a resolution. It was a resolution where we said we did not want the federal government or EPA to dictate to us what we should and shouldn't do in relation to carbon emissions. Are we acting like the federal government to Tybee Island? I don't think that the cities want us to do to them what we didn't want EPA and the federal government to do to the state of Georgia. So, with all my heartfelt sincerity and lack of flamboyance, I ask you to vote no on Senate Bill 139. I will yield for questions if there are any.
You have some questions, do you yield?
Okay.
Chair recognizes Chairman Pruitt to your right for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the lady yield?
I do.
I feel as much and as strong about local control as anybody in here. But to make it plain and simple, this plastic bag is not the issue. It's not the plastic bag's fault. It is a people issue. And do they have local control at Tybee Island to ensure that these plastic bags are not all over the island? Absolutely. And I'm just as upset about the fact that 3 weeks ago I had an industry coming into my little town, and they sent some people ahead of time to see the community. And before this gentleman left, he said, get these roads cleaned up before we bring our prospect into town. It's not the plastic bag problem, it's a people problem. And we need to fix that people problem and not worry about the plastic bag issue.
But
isn't it true?
I think the truth is that if it's a people problem, then the people on Tybee Island ought to figure out how they want to deal with it. And if they want to deal with it by saying we don't want these plastic bags that blow all over the place and cause litter problems or problems for the fish and wildlife, then they ought to have that right to do that.
Chair recognizes Representative Taylor to your right for a question.
Thank you, Lady.
Yes, sir, I will.
Is it not true that there are, in fact, litter laws that's on seas and waterways that are enforced by the U.S. Coast Guard as well as other agencies?
It is very difficult to, unless they're in a big bunch, like a sinkage or something, to have, it's very difficult to do it if it's just, a few along.
Okay, lady, for one more question.
Sure.
Is it not true that these cases don't even go to court? The citations are issued and you must pay them. It's not a judicial process when those citations are issued for littering at sea.
I'm sure the gentleman knows of what he speaks.
Thank you.
One more, Mr. Speaker.
Chair recognizes Representative Flood, the Minority Caucus Chairman, to your left for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the lady yield?
I do.
It's been said that we don't want to be like California. You mentioned that Georgia has about 100 miles of coastline, while California, I believe, has 840 miles of coastline. So we're quite different
Correct.
from the state of Georgia. Is that not correct?
That is true. 840 miles.
And since this bill really affects local communities in a very significant way, and there are over 500 cities in the state of Georgia, do you know if GMA has taken a position for or against this bill?
It is my understanding that they are not in favor of it, and I do not see how they could be.
Thank you.
With that, Mr. Speaker, I yield the well, and I hope everyone will vote against Senate Bill 139. Thank you.
Lady has yielded the well. All right, we're ready to vote. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of the bill will vote aye. All those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines on the passage of Senate Bill 139. The ayes are 67, the nays are 85. This bill, having failed to receive the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore defeated. Clerk will read the caption to Senate Bill 175.
Senate Bill 175 by Senator Black of the 8th, to be titled an Act to amend Article 1 of Chapter 11 and Title 4 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to general provisions relative to animal protection. This bill having referred to the Committee on Agriculture and Consumer Affairs, that committee recommends that this bill do pass by substitute.
The chair recognizes Representative Jaspers to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. Today I bring you from the Senate Bill 175, a Department of Agriculture bill. Georgia has a tremendous animal agriculture industry, whether it be horses, cattle, pigs, or of course the product, which we are the nation's leader, poultry. Do you know that the market value of poultry in Georgia is worth $25 billion? The Department of Agriculture protects these industries by ensuring that animals that are imported into the state have the proper certificates of veterinary inspection. These animals are examined by the veterinarian in the state in which they originate and given a certificate of health, and they can move freely around from state to state. These certificates are recognized across state lines. All surrounding states around us have a similar law. There are diseases out there that can devastate animal agriculture, Just this year at our FFA and 4-H livestock shows where animals were brought in all over Georgia, a disease called PED came to Georgia. PED is a disease that came to America only 2 years ago and has killed thousands of baby pigs. Quick work by the Department of Agriculture, vocational ag teachers and county agents, and the department have stopped this spread. This bill does regulate animals that the commissioner knows may be a hazard for sale or not. This is disease management and being a steward of our agricultural industry. Lastly, it does allow poultry that is part of the National Poultry Improvement Plan to be moved without a veterinary inspection certificate. I know I spent too much time on this, but Georgia's #1 business is agriculture, and Senate Bill 175 will help ensure animal safety and health. I'd like to take a moment and address the amendments that were put on your desk earlier today. I'll call the first one Amendment 1. It's AM 40-0144, 7 lines long. And to the sponsor, I ask, the result of this amendment would be this. Say you have a flock of chickens in Missouri, 100 or so, and they are in an avian influenza quarantine area. That is happening right now as we talk. Under your amendment, you would like to bring those birds to Georgia, maybe next door to my 100,000 birds, and endanger my livelihood without having a certificate of veterinary inspection, meaning health. We're under the current bill that we have before you, the language, you might still be able to bring them here and be right beside my 100,000, but you will have a certificate that will not endanger a $25 billion industry. The health of the animals is the owner's responsibility, not to endanger others. I ask you to vote no on AM 40-144. The second amendment is AM 40-0145. It's the shorter one, 5 lines long. This amendment questions the authority of the Department of Agriculture. This will make it clear. The authority from the Department of Agriculture comes from the Administrative Procedures Act 5013-4 because the department is a regulatory agency. It is already clear that they have the authority, and also under Title II, 2-7-7, that they must create rules based on the laws that we create here and enact them. It's their responsibility. I ask you to vote no on the other amendment, 40-145. It is already in code and unneeded. Mr. Speaker, I'll yield. I'll be glad to take any questions this time.
You have a couple of questions if you yield.
Yes, sir, I do.
Chair recognizes Representative Tanner to your right for a question.
Will the gentleman yield?
Absolutely, yes, sir.
Isn't it true that I live on a poultry farm, then we currently in those houses have over 100,000 chickens, and isn't it further true that poultry farmers in my area of Georgia, which is a huge business, would ask that the people of this House vote yes for this bill and no to both amendments?
Yes, sir, they would. Thank you.
You have another question if you care to yield.
I do.
Chair recognizes Representative Henson to your left.
Thank you very much. Will the gentleman yield?
Yes, ma'am.
What, the language here, like on line 16, any other type of animal, what assurances can you give me that this will not apply to dogs in the future?
Well, if you continue, yes, ma'am. If you continue reading the line that you said, in which the animal in which the commissioner has determined to pose a significant threat to domestic animals. So we don't know the future, just like we don't know PED as it affects our swine industry in the state. Down the road, there may be an animal disease outbreak in the canine world. They would need to address it very quickly and effectively, just as they have with PED in porcine.
Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, I yield the well, and I hope you vote yes on House Senate Bill 175. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Representative Kirby to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Like many of you in this body, we've had a lot of discussions about government overreach, about less government. But there's a big difference between less government and no government. And government has a responsibility, and our responsibility includes public safety, it includes health, it includes making sure we have a safe food supply for everybody. Make sure that we're protecting those that need protected. That's what our responsibility is. And when it comes to protecting the animals from diseases that are growing every day and coming in from around the world and other places, through the migration patterns, the avian flu is continuing to expand in three of the 4 migration patterns in this country already. That we've got a responsibility to make sure those animals that come in here for whatever the reason they're coming to our state are healthy and not bringing the disease that can devastate a flock or a herd. So I ask you to support the bill and vote against the amendments, because when you look at the amendment, the first amendment makes no sense. There are reasons for animals to come to this state other than resale. If I bring in an animal for a livestock show, not for resale. If I go out and I buy a Typhoid Turner, my new herd sire for my goat herd, he's not for resale. But if he's unhealthy and brings in disease that can spread throughout the herd, and animals that are sold later that go through other places in the herd, and it continues on and on and on. This is a very important bill for the livestock industry, for the agriculture industry, for the economic drivers in the state of Georgia. And I ask for your favorable support. I yield the well, Mr. Speaker.
Gentleman has yielded the well. Chair recognizes Representative Turner to speak to his amendment. Second amendment's out of order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So we're going to set aside the Second Amendment. I guess I didn't get that in on time. I thought I had, but oh well. The AM 400144 is designed to bring to your attention just how much authority we are expanding in the Department of Agriculture, specifically to the Commissioner. And that's really what I wanted to do with this amendment. I wanted to raise your awareness as to what we are doing. And if you're okay with that, that's cool. But I wanted to make sure that we knew what we were doing. The first thing I want to draw to your attention is on line 3. It says, into this state for the, and on to line 4, into this state for the purpose of resale is already in code today. And so the bill, without this amendment, strikes that language from code. So we are expanding the authority of the Commissioner to have say over animals that are not for resale. And that is an important point to make. If you disagree with me that is something that is an expansion, I understand. But I wanted to at least make this body aware that that is what's happening here. The second part of the amendment is lines 6 and 7 for the purpose, and it adds for the purpose of resale into this expanded authority under the Commissioner. And that's simply what it does. I'll yield for any questions.
You have no questions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yeah, I'm sorry, you do have a question, if you yield.
I will.
Chair recognizes Chairman McCall to your right for a question.
Gentleman yield.
Yes, sir.
Under your analogy in the amendment, is it not true that if you lived in 5 miles into South Carolina and I live 5 miles into Georgia and we decided to swap bulls for a year, what if your bull had a disease that might show up in Georgia, but he's not for sale, we just kind of swapping him? You wouldn't want, or mine had a disease that you didn't want in South Carolina. Do they not need to be inspected with a veterinarian certificate?
Well, sir, I believe that would be for every member to decide for themselves. But I would say that when we're dealing with what we're dealing with today, that the existing code does mention livestock as something that would already need a certificate. So that I'm not sure the changes that we're making by voting for this legislation would address that issue.
Would you let me ask you one more question?
Absolutely, sir.
Is it not true there is a fairly new swine disease called porcine epidemic diarrhea virus?
Yes, I was made aware of that in our committee hearing just the other day. Yes, sir.
It was restricted to the Midwest, is it not true? And is it not further true that by the transporting of hogs to a show, not for sale, that we now have that virus in the state of Georgia, and that virus, is it not true, 100% lethal to baby pigs 4 weeks and under?
I believe you know of what you speak, sir.
So is it further not true that those hogs aren't for resale and might ought to be inspected to protect what we have in Georgia?
I believe that you believe that's true, sir. The intent of the amendment, again, is to bring attention to the fact that we are greatly expanding the authority of the Commissioner of Agriculture. I just wanted to make sure the body was aware as we go forward. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'll yield the well.
Okay. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. There is an amendment. There actually were 2 amendments offered. The chair is going to rule that the second amendment, AM 400045, is out of order as untimely. There is an amendment offered by Representative Turner. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption of that amendment?
Representative Turner, the 21st offers the following amendment, AM 400144.
On the Turner amendment, is there any objection to the adoption of the Turner amendment? There is objection. Does the gentleman move? The gentleman moves. All those in favor of the Turner amendment, AM 400144, will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the adoption of the Turner Amendment. The ayes are 20. The nays are 135. The amendment has failed. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? Chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of Senate Bill 175 will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the passage of Senate Bill 175, the ayes are 147, the nays are 15. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to Senate Bill 82. Senate Bill 82.
Senate Bill 82 by Senator Wilkinson of the 50th to be titled an act to amend Code Section 40-2-152 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to fees and alternative ad valorem taxation of apportionable vehicles. This bill having been referred to the Committee on Ways and Means. The committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Chair recognizes Chairman Rice to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is a relatively simple bill that comes from the Department of Revenue as well as supported by the ACCG and the GMA. Basically, Section 1 of the bill, all it does is provide a more equitable way of distributing the ad valorem tax revenue that comes from truckers in the IRP program that are over 26,000 pounds. It's about $15 million in revenue. It was based on the digest. Now it's going to be based upon the effectively the domicile where the trucks would have been registered. So that's Section 1. It's just a more equitable way of doing it, and everybody's agreed on it. Section 2 only refers to unclaimed property in the Department of Revenue and where they have to advertise it. And all we're doing is changing it to the electronic advertisement as opposed to a newspaper advertisement. And then Section 3 just allows them to take some amount of the money for the administrative expenses of handling the unclaimed property. Mr. Speaker, that's all this bill does. If there are any questions, I'll take them now.
You have no questions.
Appreciate your firm vote on it.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of the bill will vote aye. All those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the passage of Senate Bill 82. The ayes are 163, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. For what purpose does Chairman Rice rise?
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to move that Senate Bill 82 be immediately transmitted to the Senate.
The gentleman has moved that Senate Bill 82 be immediately transmitted to the state Senate. Is there objection? Chair hears none, and it is on its way over there now. Clerk will read the caption to Senate Bill 69. Senate Bill 69.
Senate Bill 69 by Senator Hill of the 32nd to be titled an act to amend Part 3 of Article 1 Chapter 2 Title 38 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to the State Defense Force so as to remove restrictions regarding the rights of public officers and employees to be absent for service in the State Defense Force. This bill having been referred to the Committee on Defense and Veterans Affairs, that committee recommends that this bill do pass.
Chair recognizes the chairman of the Defense and Veterans Affairs Committee, Chairman Yates, to present the bill.
Senator Hunter asked me to present this bill. It's a pretty important bill. I remember it goes back, a thought in my mind, to right before World War II, when they were drafting people and they promised them that they would get the job when they returned home after the service. This gives the same responsibilities and advantages to the Georgia Defense Force as is now given to the Georgia National Guard. And for those of you who may not be familiar with the Georgia Defense Force, they play a real important role in that when we have emergencies, as we've had many recently, and the National Guard goes off and fights a war, the Georgia Defense Force fills in with the civilian jobs and emergencies and floods and so forth back here. And I admire the group because they serve without pay, they buy their own uniforms and kind of fill in a pretty good way in place of the National Guard. So what this does, if you look down to about line 12 to 15, somewhere there, it kind of says that they have the same duties in military law and so forth as the National Guard does. And that's kind of what the bill does. That, as I say, it more or less gives privileges to the Georgia Defense Force who fill in for the National Guard on various occasions. If there are any questions, I'd be glad to answer. I ask your favorable consideration.
You have no questions.
Thank you.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of Senate Bill 69 will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the passage of Senate Bill 69, the ayes are 154, the nays are 3. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to Senate Bill 4. Senate Bill 4.
Senate Bill 4 by Senator Gooch of the 51st, being titled an act to amend Chapter 61 and Title 36 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to urban development for counties and municipal corporations. This bill having referred to the Committee on Transportation. That committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Chair recognizes Chairman Roberts, Chairman of the House Transportation Committee, to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, I bring to you today SB 4. This is simply a bill that deals with the Beltline here in Atlanta. And if you'll look through the bill, you'll see that it talks about the redevelopment districts and all. It puts a definition in there that deals with surface transportation projects and all. This bill doesn't deal with roads. I know there's been some emails that went out today by certain organizations about this bill's setting a precedence and all this stuff. But at the end of the day, this bill, if you'll read it, you've got to have, and you go over on page 2, starting with line 51, if you read the definition, surface transportation project, and you read down to the next line, 10,000 acres or more. So 10,000 acres or more. This bill applies to the Beltline, but if there's another redevelopment project or urban development project in the state of 10,000 acres or more, right now I don't know about it. But we seem to have gotten a few emails this morning at the last hour about this piece of legislation. So there is another section that we added in Section 8, that deals with an issue that Representative Hightower and Representative Cook has had to deal with out there in Carroll County. And this will allow them to be able to create their own metropolitan planning organization. Right now they're trying to be pulled into an MPO that they really do not want to be pulled into. So this will allow them to go out there and be able to set up their own MPO. With that, Mr. Speaker, if there's any questions, I'll be glad to answer them. If not, I ask for your favorable consideration.
You have some questions if you care to yield.
I'll yield for a few, Mr. Speaker.
Chair recognizes Chairman Setzler to your right for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Gentleman yield.
Yes, sir.
I appreciate the work of your committee on this bill. An amendment was offered in committee that provided some assurances that these powers are not going to be applied statewide. Isn't it true?
Correct.
There was discussion that this is purely a Beltline bill. Now, isn't it true there's some folks that have come to me and said, even though this only applies to 3 counties, that perhaps there should be further refinement that would make it only apply to the city of Atlanta, so it is truly only the Beltline? My question to you is, would you commit to this body as part of this? I know it's going to go to the Senate and might get to conference, and I certainly have confidence. I just wanted you to commit to everybody in the body, as we've discussed, that this will only apply to the Beltline, and these vast powers that are contemplated won't be able to apply statewide after the process of back and forth between the House and the Senate.
I'll be glad to try to make sure that takes place.
I appreciate that, sir.
Do you further yield?
Yes, sir, Mr. Speaker.
Chair recognizes Chairman Rogers to your right for a question.
Gentleman, well, you yield?
Yes, sir.
How are you feeling?
I'm feeling pretty good today.
Good, good.
I'll let you know, though, in a few minutes when we take this vote.
Okay. Well, you look good.
Thank you.
I was lines 235 through 240. My question is, if that language is in there, who's going to do the work? Who's going to do the job? Who's going to put it together?
That will be up for a contract for a bid.
So no public officer, employee, or member of participating public body?
They will be able to put it out for private bids, yes, sir.
They will be?
Yeah, the redevelopment group with the Beltline, they will put that out. If I understand it correctly, and I'm trying to look at it real quick, that is correct.
Okay. It's not further yield?
Sure.
So it's not a conflict issue is what you're saying?
No, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, there is an amendment that's offered, and it is an amendment that is offered by Chairman Hamilton. It is basically a scribbler's error that was, whenever the amendment was offered within the committee, we actually struck a section, or actually didn't strike a section that needed to be struck on lines 252 to 255. And so I ask for your support of that amendment as well. With that, I'll yield the well and ask for your favorable consideration of SB 4.
Gentleman has yielded the well. Chairman Hamilton has waved off speaking. Chair recognizes Representative Dukes to speak to the bill. Whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and the House for its indulgence. I have one concern with this bill, and that is it can be found on line 249 of your legislation. And basically it says, the surface transportation project requires the relocation of utilities, according to the subsection, and that the public body implementing such project shall bear the cost of relocating the utilities. This, in my opinion, is somewhat a departure from the way that we do it now. Public utilities place their lines on public right-of-way. And as a result, when these lines are moved, then it becomes their responsibility to move them. This bill says that the body is going to have to pay for it. Now, I'm a construction consultant. That's my day job. I am not confused. When we negotiate with public utilities to move their lines when we are doing major capital expenditures, they send us a bill, a big bill, and you pay that. Once we put this into state statute then the public utilities, and we say you shall pay for it, then they will have to pay for that, a public body. Now today it is the belt line. Tomorrow, it might be the shoe line, because you know we want the shoes to match the belt. And then after that, it just might be the suit line and the shirt and the tie. And we have dressed down the line to a point where that no longer public utilities are paying for the removal of their projects out of the right-of-way, but your citizens will have to pay for it. Your county and your city. All I ask is that we maintain a level of consistency as we deal with the belt line, the shoe line, the suit line, or anybody else. If you're coming down and you're getting into the public right-of-way, because after all, it is the public's right-of-way, that we be consistent in the things that we do. Mr. Speaker, having said that, I'll yield the will and ask you to vote against this measure. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Chairman Hamilton to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I appreciate the opportunity. I won't be long. The reason I'm coming forward is I was given an assurance by several local organizations that there would not be any opposition to this, but seems like sometimes the way it happens down here, after those agreements, they decide they want to oppose things. And so I just want to make everybody aware. First of all, this is not about any kind of line. It's about a surface transportation project. Very specifically, very defined in a very specific area. And I think the concern is there's always a concern of precedence. And so the amendment that's being referenced here is for a new subject matter. It's for surface transportation projects. And currently, for road utility relocation, it is correct. Typically, the utilities pay the cost of that. This is not about roads. I would also say that typically when utilities are asked to relocate utilities because of sidewalks, other types of amenities, they are reimbursed for those things, of which that's what the Beltline is. It's a series of pathways, green space, a whole series of other things, of which it's estimated that the City of Atlanta will receive about a $2 billion economic development, but yet currently, AT&T has filed suit with the City of Atlanta for $5.8 million in these relocation costs that they're not being reimbursed. Let me explain to you what happens. Should AT&T lose that $5.8 million, they're a big company, they won't go out of business, but what they'll do is they'll say, where can we make up that $5.8 million somewhere else in the state of Georgia? Now, they may choose to cut down their investments in Atlanta, where they're doing this. They may go to your district and say, you know what, we're going to cut out $5.8 million in your district. So the simple reality is, this is a very confined project, and if we don't leave this amendment in there and don't vote the bill as passed right now, what we're really saying is that all the citizens around the state of Georgia are going to pay for those costs. Let me also just give you some quotes, because sometimes local government can say things. And here's some quotes that I took from a video conference in testimony. Should Atlanta taxpayers subsidize AT&T profits? Well, what a statement by government. Shifting costs for profit public companies to the taxpayers? The simple reality is this is a new type of project, very similar to the standard ones in the sidewalks, those types of things, and currently we're paying that. What's happened, though, is there's evidence that there are certain government entities out there that are already forcing companies to go to court to recoup those costs, and that's what's happening here. All these companies are doing. By the way, that AT&T, which is public, $5.8 million. I can assure you the other companies don't want to state, but there's tens of millions of dollars of other relocation costs in there that everybody in this room and your constituents are going to be paying the cost of those for a project in the city of Atlanta. And Mr. Speaker, I will yield the well and ask for your favorable consideration of this measure and allow it to continue forward. Thank you.
Gentleman has yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. For what purpose does Chairman Roberts rise?
Parliamentary inquiry, Mr. Speaker.
State your inquiry.
Mr. Speaker, is it not true that in SB 4 it specifically states to 10,000 acres or more, and that the gentleman earlier misstated when he was talking about that this could be applied everywhere within the state?
If the chairman so states, I know that he has read and has studied the bill. What purpose does Representative Oliver rise?
Parliamentary inquiry, Mr. Speaker.
State your inquiry.
Isn't it true, sir, that Chairman Hamilton confirmed for me my thought or memory that AT&T and the Beltline are in active litigation in this matter? And isn't it further true that we like to think we have a general rule that we will not insert ourselves into a side or another when a case is in general litigation in order to say who wins?
I'm sure the lady believes that to be true. What purpose does Representative Dukes rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Mr. Speaker, is it not true that, I'm sorry that the gentleman misunderstood me when I said that it was included within the bill, but this body, once we establish a precedent, can do anything we want afterwards, or even if we don't have a precedent. Is that not true?
Well, sometimes we don't need a precedent, or we act as if we don't. All right. We have an amendment. You have an amendment before you. Clerk will read the caption to the Hamilton amendment.
Representative Hamilton, 24th offers the following amendment, AM 390121.
Is there any objection to the adoption of the Hamilton amendment? Is there objection? Chair. There is objection. Does the gentleman move? Gentleman moves. All those in favor of the Hamilton amendment will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the adoption of the Hamilton amendment, the ayes are 140, the nays are 11. The amendment has been adopted. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute as amended? The chair hears none. The committee substitute as amended is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of Senate Bill 4 will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the passage of Senate Bill 4, the ayes are 130, the nays are 29. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to Senate Bill 6. What purpose does Chairman Roberts rise?
Make a motion.
State your motion.
Mr. Speaker, I move for immediately transmittal of SB 4.
Okay, the clerk advises me that in the last 3 days that that's automatic on every measure that we adopt.
Thank you,
pass.
Mr. Speaker.
Clerk will read the caption of Senate Bill 63.
Senate Bill 63 by Senator Hill of the 6th, to be entitled an act to amend Title III of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to alcoholic beverages, so as to provide for the manufacturers of malt beverages to make limited retail sales of malt beverages under certain circumstances. This bill having been referred to the Committee on Regulated Industries, that committee recommends that this bill do pass by substitute.
Is this a beer bill? It's happy hour somewhere. Okay. Chair recognizes Chairman Stevens to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And ladies and gentlemen of the House, for years we've had a problem getting our small beer producers and our distillers products to market and trying to figure out some way that it just doesn't implode the three-tier system that we have here. And got to hand Chairman Howard Maxwell and Chairman Alan Powell some amazing credit for thinking outside the box to make this thing work. And this committee on, of course, the Committee on Regulated Industries also was deeply involved in this. And what we essentially came up with is something we do similar in the pharmacy bill. Whenever you go in to see your doctor, if there's a new product out there, he gives you a sample and then writes you a prescription, and you take it over to your pharmacy to get it filled. The wholesaler sends us the drug, and the wholesaler is very happy with that, by the way, because he knows the product is going to be sold because they're out marketing. Very similar to what we're doing here for the distillers and the beer people. Essentially, you're going to be allowed under this bill to come in and get samples after you take a tour, and basically that's what we've done. We merged two bills, and Mr. Speaker, I'll go through each section very quickly because I can smell the salt air in Savannah, and I think I'm ready to go. Under Section 1, it modifies the definition of Title III, including removing the draft beer only requirement for brew pubs. Upon passage of brew pubs will be able to bottle and can its beer. Currently, they can do neither. It's only in a draft format. Section 2 and 3 are only DOR modifications. Section 4, 5, and 6, the distillers are allowed to provide tours and then give away free souvenirs. Section 7 is cleanup language to the brewpub code, so there's no substantive change to the brewpub operation. Section 8, most of the meat in this bill, breweries are allowed to provide tours and free souvenirs. In association, such tours, breweries can give away up to 36 ounces of beer to consume on site and give away 72 ounces to go. Lines 211 through 218 provides definitions for the code sections. Lines 219 through 225 set out as part of the tour for free food, free souvenirs as defined. Lines 226 through 229 set on-premise consumption maximum to 36 ounces per day. Lines 235 to 239 requires that a tour be attended for a person to participate in the tastings and the free souvenir. Ladies and gentlemen, this basically is what the bill does. It's a very innovative way to bring people together, get product to market. As you might know, it's a huge industry in all of our other states. The tourist, especially in Savannah, likes to go to these places, and I just hope that you'll support the beer. And Mr. Speaker, if there's no questions, I'll ask for your favorable consideration.
You have a question if you care to yield.
No, sir, I'll yield the well.
The gentleman has yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of Senate Bill 63 will vote aye. All those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. What purpose does Representative Pizzo rise?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Pursuant to the Chocus rule, I'd like to be excused from this vote, please.
Gentleman has that right, and the journal will so reflect. Clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines on the passage of Senate Bill 63. The ayes were 142, the nays were 9. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to Senate Bill 134.
Senate Bill 134 by Senator Stone of the 23rd. Entitled, an act to amend Article 2 of Chapter 14, Title 40, Official Code of Georgia, annotated, relating to speed detection devices. This bill having referred to the Committee on Judiciary and Non-Civil. That committee recommends this bill do pass by substitute.
Chair recognizes Representative Hightower to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I bring before y'all today SB 134. I'll walk you through the bill real quick. If you look at lines 20 and 21, it says that such annual report shall further be identified to the total amount of speeding fines revenue collected by local governments. What it is saying is that local governments that collect fines attached to speeding tickets need to make a report and show that those speeding fines, how they're collecting those speeding fines. If you turn to the back, this bill was originally addressed at municipalities that were abusing the system and not just using fines to regulate safety on the roadways, but they're trying to use it as essentially speed traps and really just build up their revenue base. What this does, it says it changes what used to be 40% to 35% and says that they can't exceed 35% of their revenue come from speeding tickets. That's essentially what the bill does. Mr. Speaker, I'll yield to any questions.
You have a question.
I'll yield.
Chair recognizes Representative Terry Rogers to your right for a question.
Will the gentleman yield?
I will yield.
Is it not true that the main purpose of this is to stop some of the small town speeding traps that we've seen all throughout the state of Georgia?
I think this will help rectify that problem, yes.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'll yield the well.
Representative Hightower, you did a great job a few weeks ago on a bill. This afternoon we're going to find out how persuasive you really are. Chair recognizes Chairman Houston to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I certainly do appreciate this bill being brought because I know how much concerned they are about the public safety of people on 75. And, you know, I really don't even know what to say because when Colonel Kitchens when Colonel Kitchens was head of the public safety, he recognized that in Cook and Lowndes County, we had a terrible problem with the number of traffic accidents and traffic deaths we had there. So Colonel Kitchens decided that he would, Hitchens, I said Hitchens, thank you. He would decided to concentrate on that area, and in 5 days, in 2009, in 5 days in Cook and Lowndes County, there were 639 citations, 11 warnings, 230 safety inspections, and commercial equipment violations of 147, and 434 violations of drivers. That is in 5 days. Now, if you want to increase the budget of the State Patrol and let them go monitor 75, that'll be great. But we can't ask the counties to continue to monitor 75 and them not get anything from it. And talk about the counties getting money, what about all the states getting? If it's not a revenue basis of getting tickets for the state, I don't know what is. In the words of Mr. Weldon, we have so many tag-ons to your fines, no wonder the state's bringing in so much money. We have the Peace Officer Annuity Benefit, we have the Sheriff's Retirement Fund, we have the Law Library, we have the Victims Assistance Program, we have the Probate Judge's Retirement Fee, we have the Peace Officers Prosecuting Training Fund, we have the Driver Education Fund, which is Joshua's Law, and as you and I know, we haven't been funding Joshua's Law properly. We have the Indigent Defense Fund, we have the Brain Injury Spinal Trust Fund, we have the Victims Emergency Fund, we have the Technical Fee, we have the Crime Lab Fee, we've got the County Drug and Treatment Program, and we've got the Public Defender's Fee that is part when you have the Probate Judge Court. Now, if you don't think the state's making some money out of this, it's just not small towns. And I am not for speed traps, but this bill is not going to stop speed traps. Now, if you want to stop speed traps, you can talk with some other folks and they can give you some advice. But my thing is to stop speeders. If you're going 85 miles an hour, I don't care who you are or where you are, you need to be stopped. And I don't care if you get more than 40 miles over your percentage or what. But now you raise it up to 90, so you just want us to stop people going 90 miles an hour? Well, that's real good safety. But let me tell you something. When you come to South Georgia, you remember, when you leave Macon, Georgia, headed south on 75, the next level 1 trauma center you're going to find is Jacksonville, Florida. So you be careful here. Thank you.
What did I tell you? All right. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. For what purpose does Representative Peake rise?
Parliamentary inquiry, Mr. Speaker.
State your inquiry.
To the lady that just spoke, I would like to ask a friendly question. Why would you ever want to leave Macon?
I'll let you come. You need to come up here and ask her that over here. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. Are you wanting to be recognized? What purpose does Chairman Rogers rise? State your inquiry.
Is it true, Mr. Speaker, that the lady from Nashville is against this bill?
That was my take.
Further parliamentary.
State your inquiry.
She mentioned 75. She talking about Georgia 75 or I-75?
I think she's talking about Interstate 75, which goes through her district.
further parliamentary
State your
inquiry.
further parliamentary inquiry.
Isn't it true that Chairman Golick was listed on this bill and he didn't present the bill?
He may have known who was going to speak against it.
Okay, thank you.
All right, is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of Senate Bill 134 will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. On the passage of Senate Bill 134, the ayes are 91, the nays are 58. This bill having received the requisite constitutional majority is therefore passed. Your new best friend? Clerk will read the caption to, what purpose does Chairman Houston rise?
I'd like to ask for reconsideration.
Lady has that right. Okay. All those in favor of this House reconsidering its action in giving Senate Bill 134 a constitutional majority, all those in favor of the lady's motion will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. What purpose does Representative Hightower rise?
Mr. Speaker, isn't it true that in committee that this bill was supported by the Sheriff's Association?
I don't know. Do you really want to? I don't know. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the lady's motion. On the lady's motion, the ayes are 76, the nays are 75, and this House has reconsidered its action in giving a constitutional majority to Senate Bill 134. Given where we are in the session, we are now back to passage of the bill again. What purpose does Chairman Houston rise?
Mr. Speaker, isn't this true that this allows you to go 90 miles an hour before you're stopped?
In the part of the state that I live in, we can't go 90 miles an hour anytime. So I don't know the answer to that. What purpose does, if the lady so states, maybe she's had experience? Turn her microphone on.
Isn't it true by changing this to 90 miles an hour that it would encourage people to wait till you were going 90 miles an hour before you stopped them?
If the lady believes that to be true, I'm sure she knows whereof she speaks.
And isn't it also true that I don't think this is in the best interest of the people of Georgia?
I think you've made that abundantly clear. Okay. We have, I guess, some other parliamentary inquiries. What purpose does Representative Werkheiser rise? What purpose does Representative Hightower, rise.
Parliament inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Mr. Speaker, isn't it true that this bill doesn't reference 90 miles an hour anywhere in it?
If the gentleman so states. What purpose does Chairman Martin rise?
Parliamentary inquiry, Mr. Speaker.
State your inquiry.
Isn't it true if we take just a few minutes and move the majority caucus chair out from between them, we could let them work it out on their own down there on the first row?
Probably not a bad idea. What purpose does Chairman Setzler rise?
Parliamentary inquiry, Mr. Speaker.
State your inquiry.
That this is a lot of fun, but isn't it true that this bill simply creates some limits where constituents of ours who travel around the state are sometimes used as ATM machines going through small municipalities? If municipalities get a certain amount of their revenue from traffic citations, it's disclosed so everyone sees it, and it puts some limitations on that. That's all this bill does. This is a bill that limits municipalities from having, that would have more than 35% of their revenue from traffic tickets. That's all this bill does. Isn't it true?
We've had debate, and I think now we're about to stretch the boundaries of parliamentary inquiries. I'm going to recognize the lady from Berrien County one more time. What purpose does Chairman Houston rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
It's also true that it doesn't mention 90 miles an hour, but you know, it's been a long time since I was in school, but when you add 20 to 70, that comes out 90. Thank you.
Okay. Does the body feel like it needs further parliamentary inquiries? Okay. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? The chair hears none. Committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of Senate Bill 134 will vote aye. All those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the passage of Senate Bill 134. The ayes are 104, the nays are 54. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Resolution 744.
House Resolution 744 by Representative Tanner of the 9th, creating the House Study Committee on the Use of Drones. This bill having referred to the Committee on Public Safety and Homeland Security. That committee recommends that this resolution be adopted by committee substitute.
Chair recognizes Representative Tanner to present the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Chairman Houston's assured me she would not speak on my bill, and I appreciate that. I bring you House Resolution 744, which is a study committee for drones. We've had a lot of legislation introduced in both chambers over the past 2 or 3 years dealing with drones. What we're attempting to do with the study committee, this is a very emerging technology, has a lot of parameters from governmental use as it deals with law enforcement and collecting evidence to governmental entities doing GIS mapping. or private citizens using drones on their farms, utilities doing surveying for their public utility lines, to just an individual being able to go out into a park and fly a drone. And instead of trying to piecemeal this process together, this is an attempt to bring all the parties together over the next several months and come up with a policy that we can present in a report that we'd recommend back to the House for consideration by the Speaker, leadership, and other members of the House. The committee, it works like all other study committees. It'd be appointed by the Speaker and would report back and be dissolved by December 1st of this year. Mr. Speaker, I'd be glad to answer any questions. If not, I'd ask for favorable consideration.
You have no questions.
Thank you. I yield the will.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the adoption of the resolution? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this resolution now be adopted? All those in favor of the adoption of the resolution will vote aye. All those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. On the adoption of House Resolution 744, the ayes are 149, the nays are 1. This resolution, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore adopted. Clerk will read the caption to Senate Bill 79.
Senate Bill 79 by Senator Unnerman of the 45th, to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 15 and Title 17 of the Official Code of Georgia, annotated relating to victim compensation, so as to expand the Criminal Justice Coordinating Council's powers and duties relative to claims for victim compensation. This bill having referred to the Committee on Judiciary and Non-Civil, the committee recommends that this bill do pass.
Chair recognizes Representative Pack to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, I bring for your favorable consideration Senate Bill 79, which deals with compensating victims and victims' family related to funeral costs. The bill does two things. One, it expands the definition of those who could petition for a claim under the Victim Compensation Fund to include parent, step-parent, or stepchild. And the second portion of the bill, Section 2, basically increases the limit that the fund could award with respect to the funeral costs of the victim's family from $3,000 to $6,000. The average cost of funeral exceeds $6,000, and Georgia actually has the lowest amount in terms of compensation for victims for funeral costs, and this bill seeks to put the number at an average, somewhere close to the average. The funds actually are from, no state money is appropriate to the fund. The funds actually are made up of grants and also from monies that probationers put into the fund to compensate victims of crime. And with that, Mr. Speaker, if there are no questions, I ask for your favorable consideration.
You have a question if you care to yield.
I will yield.
Chair recognizes Representative Bentley to your left for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
Yes, I do.
Thank you for your work on this bill, first of all, but did you include any funeral directors in the conversation regarding this particular piece of legislation?
I did not. However, when you look at the average cost of funerals in Georgia, it's $6,300. In addition to that, our surrounding states, including Alabama, award cap up to $7,000, and so we were the lowest, so we try to bring it up to an average.
Okay, very good. Does the gentleman further yield?
Yes.
is there a way to ensure that the funeral homes receive their money from this council in a very timely manner? Thank you.
I ask for your favorable consideration, and I yield the well.
Gentleman has yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of Senate Bill 79 will vote aye. All those opposed to vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines on the passage of Senate Bill 79. The ayes are 133, the nays are 17. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to Senate Bill 64. What purpose does Chairman Weldon rise?
For the purpose of making a motion.
State your motion.
I move that Senate Bill 64 be recommitted to the Rules Committee.
Clerk will read the caption.
Senate Bill 64 by Senator Hufstetler, the 52nd, to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 15-11-2, Title 19, and Chapter 10 of Title 31 of the Fiscal Code of Georgia, annotated, relating to definitions for the Juvenile Code.
On the gentleman's motion that Senate Bill 64 be recommitted to the Rules Committee, is there objection? The chair hears none, and it is sent back to the Rules Committee. House Resolution 620 will be postponed to the next legislative day. We have a local supplemental calendar. We have one bill on there. Clerk will read the local supplemental calendar.
HB 669 by substitute by Representative Stevens, the 164th, Chatham County.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered on the local supplemental calendar? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of the bill on the local supplemental calendar will vote aye. All those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the passage of the bill on the supplemental local calendar. The ayes are 149, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Chair recognizes Chairman Knight for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to make a motion that the House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 397.
Clerk will read the caption.
House Bill 397 by Representative Knight of the 130th being titled an act to amend Article 2 of Chapter 6 and Title 2 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to soil and water conservation districts.
Chair recognizes Chairman Knight to explain the Senate substitute to House Bill 397.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and this is the bill that went over. The changes were at my request. When the bill went over, we had been informed that some of the titles that were, you'll see through line 30 through 46, this is old code, and that these titles have changed, and I'd gotten a letter from the Dean of the College of Ag and Environmental Science from the University of Georgia, and that all those changes right there are simply updating the titles of those positions since it's been decades since they were put in and the titles have changed. The second change to this bill was on line 130. There were two representatives from the highway contractors industry. I took one out and then I added in one from the electrical utility industry. And that was the only two changes on the bill, and those were at my request. I'd ask for your favorable consideration and affirmative vote. Thank you.
On the gentleman's motion that this House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 397, all those in favor will vote aye, those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. On the gentleman's motion, the ayes are 140, the nays are 10, and this House has agreed to the Senate substitute to House Bill 397. The chair recognizes the Speaker Pro Tem for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move the House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 477.
Clerk will read the caption.
House Bill 477 to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 32-7-4, the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to procedures for disposition of property formerly acquired for public road purposes.
Chair recognizes the Speaker Pro Tem of the House to explain the Senate substitute to House Bill 477.
Thank you. House Bill 477 passed the House with only 2 dissents, and it narrowly modifies the conditions for the disposition of abandoned roads. The changes in the Senate were at my request. I changed the word property twice and replaced it with the word roadway to make it more narrowly apply. I'd ask for your favorable consideration. Thank you.
On the lady's motion that the House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 477, all those in favor will vote aye, those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the lady's motion, the ayes are 147, the nays are 0. And this House has agreed to the Senate substitute to House Bill 477. Chair recognizes Representative Mitchell for a motion.
All right, this
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that the House disagree with the Senate substitute for HB 515.
Representative Mitchell has moved that the House disagree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 515. Clerk will read the caption.
House Bill 515 by Representative Mitchell of the 88th, be entitled an act to incorporate the city of Tucker into DeKalb County.
Chair recognizes Representative Mitchell to explain his motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, members of the House. The House, in its infinite wisdom, appointed a particular special committee, spent exorbitant resources to resolve a border issue with the city of Tucker. Had great members of this committee, and that bill was then blessed by committee, and then this House, such great leadership, voted on that particular bill. It moved on to the Senate, and as a result of it moving on to the Senate, at the very last minute, a senator then, in fact, moved to change the borders, and here we stand today. I'll yield for questions, Mr. Speaker.
You have a question. The chair recognizes Chairman Rogers to your right for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Are you talking about the senator who represents this portion of DeKalb?
No, the senator that represents a portion of DeKalb does not represent the area in which the borders were moved. This is pertaining to the city of Tucker. That senator does not represent the city of Tucker.
Will you further yield?
Certainly.
So you're saying he expanded the border?
Yes, he did.
How much did he expand the border?
To take in a precinct.
One precinct?
I don't recall.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
You're welcome. But that begs the question. There was a committee, special committee that appointed, that worked over the summer, even through Thanksgiving, that was in fact tasked with working out the borders. They so did so and recommended that to the House, which subsequently passed.
To the gentleman in the well, did you check with the clerk's office and general counsel to the speaker as you were instructed to do by the messenger when you asked to be heard?
I did.
Okay. What purpose does Chairman Jacobs rise? You can. You have no further questions.
Rise to make a motion, Mr. Speaker.
What's your state your motion?
I move that House Bill 515 be laid upon the table.
Gentleman has moved that House Bill 515 be tabled. Is there objection? Is there objection? There is objection. All those in favor of the chairman's motion that House Bill 515 be tabled will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? What purpose does the Speaker Pro Tem rise?
Parliamentary.
State your inquiry.
Isn't it true that Representative Jacobs would very much like this bill to be tabled so that this can be worked out so that we can resolve this once and for all?
That is the understanding of the chair. Have all members now voted? If so, clerk will lock the machines. On the motion of Chairman Jacobs to table House Bill 515, the ayes are 81, the nays are 67. The bill is on the table. Chair recognizes Representative Chuck Williams for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that the House agree to the Senate amendments to HB 320 as amended by the House.
Representative Williams moves that this House agree to the Senate amendments to House Bill 320 as amended by this House. The clerk will read the caption. We are still in session.
House Bill 320 by Representative Williams, the 119th. To be entitled an act to amend Article 7 of Chapter 3, Title 20 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to scholarships, loans, and grants.
Chair recognizes Representative Williams to explain the Senate amendments as amended by this House.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, I bring to you this afternoon an amendment that is in front of you. This bill is a bill for the Georgia Student Finance Commission, a department bill, gives them a couple of tools they needed. It passed this body with a unanimous 160-0 vote on February the 20th. There were two amendments placed on it in the Senate as the bill sponsor. I'm comfortable with one of those amendments. One of those amendments is burdensome to the bill, so the amendment that you have in front of you, AM 251348, negates the Senate amendment that I find onerous to the bill, and I would ask for your affirmative vote on this action.
On the gentleman's motion that this House agree to the Senate amendments to House Bill 320 as amended by this House, all those in favor will vote aye, those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. On the gentleman's motion that this House agree to the Senate amendments to House Bill 320 as amended by this House, the ayes are 148, the nays are 0. This House has agreed. Clerk will read the caption to a group of privileged resolutions.
Recognizing and commending Mrs. Karen Tanksley on the grand occasion of her retirement. Recognizing and commending Mr. William T. Potter, Jr. on the occasion of his retirement from the Department of Natural Resources. Commending Frederick Douglass High School class of 1970. Commending the Exchange Club of Rome and its Americanism Committee for the committee service project they sponsored to commemorate the 200th anniversary of the Star-Spangled Banner. Commending Lovett Stovall. Honoring the life and memory of Othello Nelson Renfro. Congratulating Dr. George W. Shannon upon the grand occasion of his retirement. Honoring the life and memory of Christopher Edward Carlton. Congratulating the H.V. Jenkins High School basketball team on winning the 2015 GHSA Class 1 AAA State Championship. Commending the Association for the Study of African American Life and History for its 100th anniversary. Honoring the life of Dr. Dolores Felder and dedicating a bridge in her memory. Honoring the life of Mr. William Lee Brown and dedicating a bridge in his memory. Commending the Stevenson High School Lady Jaguars basketball team on winning the GHSA Class 5A State Championship. Congratulating the Dalton State College basketball team for winning the 2015 NAIA National Championship game. Recognizing May 14, 2015 as Atrial Fibrillation Day at the state capitol. Isn't that every day? Congratulating the Dalton State College basketball team for winning the 2015 NAIA National Championship game. Honoring the life and memory of Curtis Lee Atkinson. Commending the Junior League of DeKalb County. Commending Day League, formerly known as the DeKalb Rape Crisis Center, and for other purposes. That completes the reading of the privilege resolutions.
Is there any objection to adopting the privilege resolutions? The chair hears none, and the resolutions are adopted. What purpose does Representative Kelly rise?
To make a motion.
State your motion.
Mr. Speaker, I ask that the rules of the House be suspended so that a bill can be read for the first time and assigned to committee.
Clerk will read the caption.
Unnumbered House Bill LC 213840 by Representative Kelly the 16th, being titled an act to amend Code Section 47-23-64 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to transfer of funds from the Employees Retirement System of Georgia to the Georgia Judicial Retirement System by Superior Court judges.
On the gentleman's motion that the rules of this House be temporarily suspended to allow a bill to be read for the first time and assigned to committee, is there objection? Chair hears none, and it is so ordered. Retirement. What purpose does Representative Gravely rise?
Make a motion.
State your motion.
Move that the rules be temporarily suspended so a bill may be read for the first time and assigned to committee, Mr. Speaker.
Clerk will read the caption.
Unnumbered House Bill LC 213831 by Representative Gravely of the 67th, to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 1 of Title 35 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to the general provisions relative to law enforcement officers and agencies.
On the gentleman's motion that the rules of this House be temporarily suspended to allow a bill to be read for the first time and assigned to committee, is there objection? Chair hears none, and it is so ordered. Public Safety and Homeland Security. What purpose does Representative Waits rise?
Mr. Speaker, to make a motion.
State your motion.
I'm asking that House Bill 40 be withdrawn from the Education Committee and recommitted to the Juvenile Justice Committee. Both chairmen are in agreement.
Both chairmen are in agreement?
Yes, sir.
Clerk will read the caption.
House Bill 40 by Representative Waits of the 60th, to be entitled an act to amend Part 2 of Article 16, Chapter 2, and Title 20 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to the discipline of students in elementary and secondary education.
On the lady's motion that House Bill 40 be withdrawn from the Education Committee and committed to the Juvenile Justice Committee, is there objection? Hearing none, it is so ordered. What purpose does Chairman Powell rise?
To make a motion, Mr. Speaker.
State your motion.
I move that the rules of this House be temporarily suspended so a bill can be read for the first time and assigned to committee.
Clerk will read the caption.
Senate Bill 238 by Senator Burke of the 11th, to be entitled an act to create the Bainbridge Decatur County Recreation Authority and to authorize such authority to provide recreational services.
On the chairman's motion that the rules of this House be temporarily suspended to allow a bill to be read for the first time and assigned to committee, is there objection? Chair hears none, and it is so ordered. Intragovernmental coordination.